Hey there, friends, and welcome back to another 3-Minute Thoughts. My name is Derek, and these few minutes every morning, we slow things down, open scripture, and reflect on what God is doing and how God is always greater than we can imagine. Today, we're in Romans chapter 11, and this chapter ends with one of the most breathtaking songs of praise in all of Scripture. But before Paul gets to the song of praise, he asks us to sit with something uncomfortable. Has God abandoned his people? I mean, after all that's happened, has Israel been forgotten? Paul's answer is a very clear no. God has always preserved a remnant. Grace has always been at work. His promises have not failed. And then Paul uses a picture that would have made perfect sense to the readers of his day, an olive tree. Some branches have been broken off because of unbelief. Wild branches, however, representing the Gentiles, have been grafted in. And Paul immediately warns those new branches, don't become arrogant. Don't assume that you've earned something, that the grace has somehow given you a place to be prideful. Remember the root that supports you. In other words, grace should never produce pride. It should produce gratitude. Paul even says to consider both the kindness and the severity of God. Now, it's a seeming paradox between those words. Naturally, we will gravitate toward one or the other. Some people focus almost entirely on God's kindness, his grace. Others seem to emphasize only his judgment, the severity of God's rule. Paul says both are true. God is holy and God is merciful. He takes sin seriously, and he also delights in showing grace. Holding these truths together keeps us from two dangerous extremes: arrogance on one side, despair on the other. Throughout Scripture, we see faithful people reach moments where they simply have to trust God's wisdom. Look at Habakkuk as he watches his world unravel and still declares that he will rejoice in the Lord. Or Job spends chapter after chapter asking hard questions. But when God finally speaks, Job is reminded just how much lies beyond human understanding. The disciples spend days confused by the cross until the risen Jesus opens their eyes and suddenly their hearts burn with new understanding. Again and again, deeper knowledge of God leads not to greater self-confidence, but to greater wonder. And that's exactly where Paul arrives. After 3 chapters wrestling with some of the hardest questions of the Bible, he stops arguing and he starts worshiping. Oh, the depth of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments and how inscrutable his ways. It's as if Paul says, I've taken you as far as words can go. Now let's just stand in awe. Maybe that's one of the greatest lessons of Romans 9 through 11. The goal of theology is not simply collecting answers. It's knowing God more deeply. Because when our understanding of God grows, so should our worship. If studying Scripture only makes us more argumentative, if learning doctrine only makes us more proud, we've missed the point. Good theology should produce humble hearts. It should leave us amazed by God's wisdom, grateful for his mercy, and eager to give him glory. A question to ponder: when is the last time your understanding of God produced genuine awe instead of just information? Wrestle with that as your moment of devotion today. Be well, friends.